You have a ginger wig? They were copper-colored ponies.
Dodie Bishop from As Told by Ginger is a character many people dislike due to her obsession with popularity and her tendency to betray her friends for even the slightest taste of it. Throughout the series, Dodie makes some questionable choices that don't reflect the actions of a true friend, which make me wonder why. Why does Dodie behave this way? Does she recognize the problem with her actions? And can she even be considered a good friend? In this video, I'll explore Dodie Bishop's most questionable moments and examine how her upbringing and home life may have shaped her behavior. My goal isn't to excuse her actions, but to provide a deeper understanding of her character, allowing you to decide for yourself, is Dodie truly a bad friend? Dodie Bishop is the best friend of Macie and most notably Ginger, the main character of As Told by Ginger. She and her best friends attend Lucky Junior High, where Dodie is often described as selfish, attention-seeking, and jealous. Her biggest obsession is popularity. She goes out of her way to memorize the full names and personal details of the popular kids, always keeping up with the latest gossip, and can even name the exact shades of lipstick each popular girl wears. Despite all of her efforts, however, Dodie never achieves popularity. Instead, she remains known only by association with her best friend Ginger. Dodie is so desperate for status that she repeatedly throws her friends, especially Ginger, under the bus. One of the best examples of this is in the episode of Lice and Friends. When given an opportunity to do the school's morning announcements, she uses it as a platform to spread gossip, taking advantage of the lice outbreak to gain attention. She manages to get her hands on a list of infected students and starts reading the names over the loudspeaker, targeting Courtney Griplin in particular because she thinks exposing her will make her popular. Ginger ultimately shuts off the microphone, but the incident highlights Dodie's willingness to share personal information and humiliate others just for her social status. A similar situation happens in Cry Wolf when Miranda convinces Dodie that Ginger is replacing her with Courtney just because she sees them talking at a fire drill. In an attempt to prove that her and Ginger are best friends, Dodie starts telling Miranda all of Ginger's secrets, including an embarrassing confession about her red, hairy legs that she isn't allowed to shave. While Dodie does eventually admit to Ginger that she told Miranda, it seems like the only reason she confesses is that Ginger directly asks. In other episodes, she actively avoids Ginger to escape accountability. Another example of Dodie's questionable loyalty happens in the episode titled Wicked Games. By this point, Ginger and Darren are dating and Dodie feels neglected. At the same time, Miranda and Macie are upset that Ginger is too preoccupied with Darren to notice their usual mean girl antics. So Dodie teams up with them to sabotage the relationship. She impersonates Ginger on a phone call to a boy that Ginger used to like, setting her up to look unfaithful. When the boy calls back and leaves a message, Darren hears it and gets mad at Ginger. Courtney later hosts a conference call with everyone involved, and Dodie, unaware that Ginger is listening in, proudly admits to the scheme. When Ginger reveals herself and confronts her, Dodie only apologizes because she's been caught. Dodie's selfishness also extends beyond her obsession with popularity. In the episode titled Easter Ham, when her mother forbids her from hanging out with Ginger, she expects Ginger to cancel the party she's throwing for Darren just because she can't be there. She completely disregards the fact that the party isn't about her, reinforcing how self-centered she can be. Even as she enters high school, Dodie's need for popularity doesn't fade. In the episode Kiss Today Goodbye, she became fixated on joining the pep squad and starts sucking up to the coach, spending all of her time with the team and the football players. This puts her in a position to see Darren growing closer to a cheerleader named Simone while he and Ginger are still dating. When Dodie has a chance to tell Ginger what's going on, she chooses not to, afraid that it will ruin her standing with Simone and hurt her chances of getting on a pep squad. Even when Simone openly confesses her feelings for Darren to Dodie, she keeps quiet because she wants Simone to keep relying on her. Eventually, Dodie does feel guilty after hearing Ginger sing a song about Darren becoming distant. For a moment, it seems like she was finally going to come clean, until Simone interrupts to tell her that the coach wants her to introduce the pep squad at the next event. Dodie gets excited at this opportunity and forgets all about telling Ginger what's going on. Instead, she writes a letter to Darren, telling him to confess, which, while better than nothing, still shows how she's unwilling to take responsibility for herself. These are just a few of the many instances where Dodie prioritizes popularity over her friendships, but they highlight a pattern of behavior that makes her one of the most frustrating characters in the series. However, despite her selfishness, I believe there's a deeper reason for why Dodie is the way she is: her home life, and more specifically, her mother, JoAnn Bishop. I always wondered why Dodie is the way she is and where she learned this behavior. These questions were answered for me when I watched the episode About Face and realized that Dodie is a lot like her mother. In this episode, Dodie's mom, JoAnn Bishop, starts a new job as the home economics teacher at her daughter's school. From the moment she arrives, she makes it a priority to change her entire identity to fit in with the cool crowd, specifically Courtney and Miranda. This is strange considering she's a middle-aged woman who shouldn't be concerned with impressing teenagers or being seen as cool. One of the first signs that something is off is when she packs herself a school lunch and labels it with the name Josie. Dodie immediately questions her about it, pointing out that everyone knows her as either JoAnn or Mrs. Bishop. Mrs. Bishop admits that no one actually called her Josie in school, but insists that it's never too late to try to fit in. From this point on, things get weirder. She changes her entire look, wearing cornrows and dressing in what she thinks is trendy. At school, she actively hangs out with the popular girls, laughing with them in the bathroom and sitting with them at lunch. She becomes so consumed with this new identity that even Dodie, who has always longed for popularity, starts to feel like her mom is doing a better job at fitting in than she ever has. As Mrs. Bishop gets more invested in her new teen persona, she starts losing touch with reality. She begins spending more time with the kids both during and after school. At one point, when school lets out for the day, Dodie assumes that they'll be going home together, but Mrs. Bishop brushes her off, telling Dodie to call her dad and have him start dinner because she won't be coming home. Instead, she plans to tag along with Miranda to her clarinet lessons, then head to Mipsy's house for deep conditioning treatment. At this point, it's hard not to wonder, where are these kids' parents, and does no one see how this is bizarre? When Dodie finally gets home, she vents to her father about everything her mom has been doing. In response, Mr. Bishop pulls out an old yearbook and shows a picture of Josie, revealing that she actually was a real person, but was actually one of the popular girls from when they went to school. He explained that Josie wasn't actually Mrs. Bishop, but was someone that she idolized. Then Mr. Bishop flips to the page showing what Mrs. Bishop actually looked like in school, and Dodie realizes the truth that her mother was never really popular. She was just another kid trying and failing to fit in. And now, as an adult, she's using her new teaching job as a second chance to finally be a part of the cool crowd. Mr. Bishop goes on to explain, much like Dodie, Mrs. Bishop was obsessed with popularity as a kid. She would even go as far as doing cruel things to others just to be accepted, just like Dodie. This episode is the perfect example of the apple not falling too far from the tree, with Dodie being the apple and Mrs. Bishop being the tree. This episode proves that Dodie's fixation on popularity isn't random, but it's inherited from her mother. Along with that, I also think her behavior stems from how controlling Mrs. Bishop is at home. Dodie is constantly being nagged and restricted in ways that other kids aren't, making her desperate for a different life. School is the only place where she has the freedom to be someone else, so she takes full advantage of it. She does everything she can to redefine herself and escape the reality of her home life. So, after breaking down Dodie's actions throughout the series and exploring the influence of her mother, the question still remains. Is Dodie Bishop really a bad friend? On one hand, her repeated betrayals, selfish decisions, and obsession with popularity makes it easy to label her as one. She constantly puts her own desires above her friendships and rarely shows true remorse unless she's caught. But on the other hand, her upbringing and home environment gives us insight on why she behaves this way. With a mother who's just as obsessed with status and a home life where she lacks control, Dodie's desperate need for popularity starts to make more sense. She isn't just chasing the status for the sake of it. She's trying to escape the life she feels trapped in, and also following in the footsteps of her mother. Although that doesn't excuse her actions, it does raise the question, is Dodie truly a bad friend, or is she just a product of her environment? I'll leave that for you to decide. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more content like this.